Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 213. Today I'm talking all about helping your kids be themselves, embrace who they are, and love on their own quirky, creative, interesting selves. We're talking all about this topic next month in the Learners Lab. We're going to be focusing on some creative thinking exercises related to it, some critical thinking activities, as well as some social and emotional learning and challenges related to this topic. So I thought I would bring it here to the podcast as well, so you could hear a little bit about what we'll be talking about in the lab, and so you can help your own kiddos embrace themselves and love who they are for exactly who they're meant to be. A special shout out today to our sponsor, CTC Math. Thank you so much for continuing to sponsor this podcast and support us. Also, thank you to Reading Eggs, a new sponsor. We're so grateful you're on board. Check them out, ctcmath.com and readingeggs.com. You'll hear a little bit more about them later on in the program. All right, pop your earbuds in. Let's get on with today's episode. Okay, so today we're going to talk all about helping our kids be themselves, find out who they are, own it, and really embrace that true sense of authenticity. Now, the reason we're talking about this today on the podcast is because next month in the Learners Lab, we're diving deeply into this topic, and I just felt that it was important for us as homeschooling parents of neurodivergent kids to explore the topic as well. So it's important to dive deeper into it, which is what we're going to do in the community through parent discussions, parent masters, Q&A sessions, group coaching sessions, as well as kid sessions. We're going to have classes for the kids and then creative thinking activities to help them kind of tease out what some of their interests and passions are. So if you want to dive deeper into it, the Learners Lab will be open for a small amount of time this month. So make sure you're on the email list so you can see when it's open and you can join in. And there's no long-term commitment. You can join for a month, you can join for a year, you can cancel at any time. So if this is a topic that you feel that your family and your kids in particular need to explore more deeply, you can join us in the lab. So let's talk about this. What is authenticity as far as it goes for helping our kiddos figure out who they are? Well, we're talking about being themselves. And what we mean by that, what I mean by that when I'm talking about it, is helping your kids discover who they are and embrace that fully. So be true to themselves, their interests, their passions, their values, their emotions, essentially not pretending to be someone else. A lot of times our neurodivergent kiddos struggle with this because they try to figure out who they're supposed to be based on those around them, or they don't pay attention to how others are perceiving them. And so we can get one extreme or the other when it comes to our kiddos who are a little bit quirky, outside the box thinkers, or just, aren't neurotypical. And so we want our kids to know who they are, trust who they are, embrace who they are, and then find others like them, which we're going to talk about next month in the lab, the following month in the lab, all about that sense of belonging. So right now, when we're talking about being oneself, we're talking about really, really knowing who we are and owning it and enjoying it and being authentically us, figuring out what our values, our morals, our interests, our passions are, and tuning into our own emotions and not taking on the emotions, values, interests, passions of others to be accepted. It's super important because when our kids know who they are, trust who they are, embrace who they develop a stronger sense of self esteem, emotional well being, resilience. They are strong in their identity and they have a unique ability to navigate the challenges that come along with growing up with confidence. And we want our kids to be able to grow up with confidence. We want our kids to be able to be who they are from the get go. And when they leave us, as they go into college or into jobs and embark into adulthood, we want them to continue owning who they are and being true to themselves. So it's super important that we do this when they're young. So how do we do that? As homeschooling families, we have a unique ability to customize, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, right? To customize the learning environment, the home environment to be exactly what our kids need. And so we're going to do that when it comes to helping them become themselves as well. We are going to create a nurturing environment, a place where our kids feel comfortable being who they are. They know that we love them for who they are. We know that they know that we've got their back. We're their person. We are going to be there for them. And so we want to cultivate that respect, that mutual respect within our homes. One of the ways we can do that is to set aside time each day to talk to our kids, to really talk to them, have a conversation about their day, about their feelings, about their experiences, about what's gone on, so that we're always on the same page with them. If we notice that they're feeling frustrated or edgy or down about something, it sets up by talking to them each day, we've set up the opportunity to do that anytime they need it, right? So we get this chance to show them that we're actively involved, we're actively interested in their lives, and it encourages this open communication with them. It encourages them to come to us when they need to. It encourages them that we're not just going to come to them when there's a problem, so that they're more open to talk to us. So we can do this in a lot of different ways. If you've got one child, obviously this becomes a little bit easier for you because you've got one person to kind of hang out with at the end of the day. But if there's more in your family, I know a lot of you, like me, are thinking, how on earth am I going to make time to sit down and have a deep conversation with my kids every single day, each one individually? The day just doesn't always allow for that. And I want to assure you, I've talked about this in other podcast episodes before. We recently talked about connection with our families. You can't do big, long, in-depth conversations with everybody every day, but you could at least have a touch point every day, right? You can make sure that, you go up and say goodnight to each person individually. You ask them if there's anything they want to talk about, or you notice something about their day. You say, hey, I noticed when you did this, that was great. How did you feel about that? Or, you had your first outside class today. How was that? What was it like sitting in that classroom with people who were all much older than you? We had this situation this past week as I'm recording this. My 16-year-old started on-campus college classes, and she was by far the youngest. And in one of her classes is the only girl, including the professor, who is male. And so we talked about, how that made her feel, and talked about different things that she could put into place to feel more comfortable. And so having those conversations with whatever is going on in their day is really positive and can open up the communication. So as they get older and start to struggle perhaps with things that they're interested in or how people perceive them outside of their home, they're more willing to come and talk to us about what's going on. So just to kind of recap that, when we're creating a nurturing environment for our kids to have these conversations with them, we want to make sure that there's open communication, acceptance, and understanding. We're listening more than we're talking so that our kids feel safe expressing their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own interests without fear of judgment. And that just pays dividends going forward. You'll notice that this helps you long into your kids' future. Okay, another thing that we can do inside of our home to cultivate that kind of nurturing environment and that feeling of acceptance so that our kids know how to be themselves is that we can foster this community and culture of self-discovery and individuality. So for example, if your kiddo is showing an interest in a certain hobby or activity or topic, instead of narrowing them down to just like one thing, let them explore each of the different things that they're interested in until they find the one that they're passionate about, so they can kind of understand what they really truly love. So for example, my youngest really loves video games, as most 10-year-old boys do. He likes talking about storms. Serious, severe weather is what he's really into right now. And then he's also into just exercise. He's been taking hip hop dance classes. And just, I was told by his professor his hip hop teacher, that when he started less than a year ago, he couldn't even do one push up. And yesterday in class, he did 20 straight push ups. And so celebrating those things, but letting him get a lot of exposure to different types of activities so that he can narrow it down. He may not be a hip hop star. He may not be a storm chaser, but he's exploring those different options. And I'm giving him lots of room and resources to explore. He's been reading books about severe weather and watching storm chaser videos. And we keep exposing him to different things. Same thing with my 14-year-old who kind of hasn't found her thing. She's taking an acting class. She's doing some volunteering with a preschool class. She is in a musical. She is whittling. She's got whittling tools, and she's been making these little gnomes. She loves animals and has a variety of pets, some reptiles and amphibians currently, a turtle, a bearded dragon, some toads, along with our dogs. And so we're giving her opportunities to explore those passions and interests. Whereas my 16-year-old has been very single-mindedly driven for years. She's passionate about musical theater. So her classes focus on music theory at the college, private voice lessons, private acting lessons, private dance lessons, master classes to work on the art of audition and what it's like to be in a musical theater program. We're doing some junior experiences this year to get her access to mock auditions so she can kind of demystify the process before she starts auditioning for BFA programs next year. And so we give them the chance to discover really who they are by giving them lots of experiences. We're paying attention to what our kids are saying, what they're interested in, and we're encouraging them to share those thoughts and concerns and experiences with us so that we can tell them that we value their perspectives, we value their interests, and then we can validate those interests and those passions by giving them the opportunity as we can to expose themselves to that different topic or whatever it is that they're interested in. Okay, we also want to encourage our kids to express themselves as they are. We want them to know that it's okay to be unique. We want them to know that it's okay to be true to themselves. We want to highlight and focus on their strengths, their interests, their talents. We want them to embrace their differences so that they know that they can use their strengths to improve any of their challenges and that they can express themselves in whatever way is interesting to them. So maybe that is for a kid who's interested in music and theater, a place where they can practice their vocals or their dance. Maybe for someone who's interested in art, it can be a corner of the house where there's an easel set up and there's all sorts of art supplies. Maybe for a kiddo who's interested in video games, you could expose them to some coding or practice creating their own video games through games or programs and resources like Scratch.
Hey there. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit more about CTC Math. We've been using it for a few years now, and I had a conversation with my daughter the other day. She came to me and she said, Mom, I was going to the next lesson in my math program, and she said, I looked at it and it's something that I already know how to do. Do you want me to go through and just keep doing it? That seems kind of boring. And so we glanced through the different lessons that were in the unit, and she did. She could tell me exactly what she knew and proved that she knew all of the stuff that was coming up over the next 10 lessons. So I said, okay, skip it. You don't need to do something that you already know how to do, and you just proved to me that you know how to do it. That's just one of the reasons I love CTC Math. I've said before that they are sponsors of this podcast, and I'm so grateful to their sponsorship, but I'm also a customer. I pay for my subscription every year, and I have for the last several years. We are strong supporters of CTC Math. We love them. We appreciate them for so many reasons, and that is just one. And I'm not the only one. I've gotten a couple emails recently. This one's from Jamie. Jamie said, at your recommendation, we switched over to CTC Math last month. We have used another curriculum for several years, but it just wasn't meeting our needs anymore. Now we've settled into a good rhythm. The kids are loving it, and I love that we are able to adapt it for each of their individual needs. Thank you so much for the recommendation. Jamie, I love that, and I was so excited to hear it because it just goes to show I'm not the only one who has had that experience from CTC, being able to adjust on the fly as our kids are learning. I love, love, love that. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, go to ctcmath.com. You will not be sorry. Okay, are you looking for a reading program for your kiddos that they are going to love? Imagine a curriculum that doesn't just teach your homeschool kids to read, but turns learning into fun. That's Reading Eggs. Seriously, it's designed for kids 2 to 13. It covers phonics, sight words, comprehension, spelling, and more, all backed by solid scientific research. It's trusted by over 20 million users worldwide. It's the go-to choice for homeschoolers everywhere. We have used it off and on throughout the years, depending on which kid needed what. And here's the best part. The program works at your child's level. It builds their confidence and helps them stay motivated. It's KidSafe certified, completely ad-free, and when you sign up, you get a free 30-day trial and get instant access to hundreds of lessons, worksheets, ebooks, and detailed reports with access for up to 4 kids. Seriously, 4 kids right off the bat and access to the whole program. You can try it full on out for 30 days without any commitment. You don't have anything to lose. You can make learning to read easy, fun, and nurture a lifelong love of reading along the way. Check it out at readingeggs.com/RLL. That's readingeggs.com/RLL.
So we want to give them authentic opportunities to express themselves through their interests and their passions and their strengths so that they know that they can ask us and we'll provide them with the resources that they need for whatever it is that they're interested in. Another thing that we want to teach our kids as we're helping them be themselves and find out who they are as they grow older is that there are going to be challenges. There are going to be setbacks. And the best way for them to develop resilience and a strong sense of like sticking with it and bouncing back from those disappointments and those setbacks is to be there supporting them and showing them how to do that. So say your kiddo faces disappointment because they didn't make the sports team that they were going out for. Help them see it as an opportunity for growth and self-improvement. Maybe this is a chance to develop a skill that's more deeply in tune with that particular sport. Maybe they can take private lessons or work on their pitching or their fielding or their batting. Whatever it is, give them the opportunity to get better so that they go in there the next time and they shine. Maybe for a kiddo who is into theater, you might have a situation like we have right now. My daughter's taking off the whole first semester from performing because she's developed some tension and is working with a voice therapist to retrain herself so that she can pursue an entire career of this without falling back on tensing up or protecting herself in times of sickness. So vocalists have all sorts of unique challenges when they are struggling or they're performing in something and have to keep kind of pushing through when they're sick or strained. They need to learn how to protect themselves in a way that will give them a career and not just one show. And so she's spending this semester working on her college classes, working on her private training, working on her mock auditions, and working on vocal therapy so that she knows how to train herself to develop a career. So we want our kids to know that no matter what happens, there's always something that they can learn from a setback or a challenge. It gives them a chance to reflect on an experience and set new goals for themselves and find the resources that they need to move forward in a way that is more long term. It gives them a goal towards more long term success. We can also help our kids when we figure out or they figure out kind of who they are or what they're interested in, make some positive social connections so that they have the opportunity to have good friends who are involved in the same types of things that they're involved in or develop mentors towards whatever it is they're interested in. So, for example, years ago, my oldest was interested in blacksmithing, and we found classes that did glass blowing and blacksmithing. And we went regularly so that he could talk with the blacksmith there. And he ended up forging some different tools and things and has been very interested in that or was very interested in that when he was young. So finding good mentors to nurture those interests is great. My singer, musical theater daughter has a really good mentor in her acting coach, her dance instructor, and her vocal coach. And so these are three people she can go to when she's worried about an audition or when she wants to work on something or she needs a video recording or something choreographed. And they are there for her whenever she's struggling. And in this new college class she's taking, she knows she's got these people who have worked in the field and are musical that can help her if she gets stuck on something in her class. She also has a couple of friends who have taken various degrees of musical theory or have played instruments before or go to performing arts schools that can help her. So she's got friendships that are her own age that are doing similar things and she can go to commiserate or to get support or to get feedback or to get help. And then she's got adults in her life that can do the same. My 14-year-old daughter has a couple adults that are really encouraging towards her. They're adults who have dealt with anxiety all their lives and can help her push through some of that. So find connections for your kids. And when they do find those, whether they're kids their own age or adults, create opportunities for them to get together. So if you're in a situation like me where one of your kids' friends are kind of scattered all over the state because she's done programs in different areas, make a point to get her together with her friends, whether that's going to go to the football games for the high schools that they belong to, invite them over for sleepovers and play dates and pool parties, give them opportunities to get together with their mentors so they see them regularly and foster those connections, engage in activities on topics that they're passionate about so that they can keep developing those interests and keep developing the resources with people who are interested in the same things. Here's the thing, as our kids get older, their interests are going to evolve, right? They're going to go from some of the things that they were really interested in when they were young. Like my youngest was really into space when he was younger and was adamant that he was going to be an astronaut. Well, he's 10 now and he's into storm chasing and weather and things like that. He may not be a meteorologist and he doesn't have to be. He may not be a hip hop dancer and he doesn't have to be. But we want to watch as those interests and those passions evolve and tune into them and tap into those strengths to really nurture who they are and help them see who they are so that as they start to evolve, we're there for them and we're helping to give them resources to be their true selves. Okay. So as you are learning about your kids and you're helping them kind of find out who they are, make sure that you're doing the things that we talked about in this episode. You are creating a nurturing environment. You're surrounding your kids with an environment that is accepting and helps to foster those interests and has open ears with little judgment so that they can come to you whenever they're struggling with something. Help them foster self-expression, whether that is through art, through music, through dance, through sports, through friend groups and classes that they take, clothing. Help them find out who they are and express themselves and be there to support them in ways that nurture the morals and the values and the expectations that you have as a family while honoring who they are and who they're evolving to be. Model authenticity. Make sure you're doing the same. You're expressing yourself and you're showing them that you still get involved in things that you're interested in and that you've got passions and you've got interests. Remember that nurturing who your kid is and helping them be themselves is a lifelong journey. Your support now will have a lasting impact on them as they grow, and they'll know that you're theirs and you're there for them so that they'll always be able to come to you and help and ask for help when they're dealing with challenges and setbacks. So you've got this. I totally believe in you. And there are so many different ways to help your kids find out who they are, what their interests and their passions are, and how to be themselves. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, we are diving deeply into this topic of helping our kids be themselves and find out who they are and hone those interests and those passions and those strengths through the activities and the classes that we do for both parents and kids in the Learners Lab next month as you're listening to this. If you're listening to this live, if you're listening to this on the replay, you can still join the Learners Lab because you have access to all the past classes, all the past themes, all the past topics, all the past parent conversations that we've had in the lab. But if you're listening to this when this is released next month in the lab, we are honing in on who our kids are and helping them be themselves and trust who they are as they go forward and grow into adulthood. So take a moment, go over, get on our email list if you haven't already. You can find that at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast, and you can sign up there. You can go over to the Learners Lab. The link is on the podcast show notes, and you can see if it's open, and if not, get on the wait list. But join, because we will have masterclasses for parents, group coaching sessions for parents. There's going to be lots of conversations in the lab about how to help cultivate this sense of self in your kids. And then in the kids section, they'll be talking about this. We'll be having an EQ challenge, an emotional intelligence challenge related to this topic, where kids can earn badges after completing activities as a family about being themselves. And then we're going to do a creative thinking class live, which is always a highlight of the month for kids, where they talk about finding out some of their interests and their passions through guided exercises. We also have a couple of meetups for teens in the lab live, where they get to talk with a facilitator and each other about these topics, and they get to play games and icebreakers and have good conversations with one another. So go check that out over in the show notes for this episode at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast. Tune in next week. We have a great interview coming with a really interesting guest that I know you're going to love. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast already, please do that. We really appreciate subscribers. And if you have a chance, leave a rating or review over on Apple Podcasts or any of the podcast apps where you listen. It really helps. It boosts it, it bumps it up, and it gets it known to other parents who might need some support helping their kids find their interests, their passions, their strengths, grow into who they are and who they're meant to be, and help cultivate that love of lifelong learning in their families and their kids. All right, you're a great parent. I'm so proud of you. I will see you here, same time, same place next week. Bye for now.